guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and my knitting podcast series. It is so lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who are new, my name is Samantha and I am a knitter, knitwear designer, YouTuber living in the Arctic Circle of Norway in a place called Tromsø. And on this channel, I talk a little bit about my finished objects, my works in progress. I have some yarny videos. I also talk a little bit about what it is like to live in northern Norway as an expat. If you're interested in that kind of content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But yeah, I'm just here to give you an update recently on all of the finished objects and works in progress that I have. And oh my gosh, there are quite a lot, especially finished objects. It has been a pretty hectic past few months for me and my fiance, Kevin. We got engaged over the summer in Japan. And now that we are back in Tromsø, oh gosh, it's been super busy. We have moved apartments. We have been wedding planning because we're getting married in a month. We have been going through all kinds of bureaucratic stuff. For those of you who don't know Norway's bureaucracy, like we joke about the DMV, fellow Americans, you know what I'm talking about, and how slow they are. Norway's entire bureaucracy is like that. So two internationals trying to get married in Norway, that's a lot of paperwork, mostly for me because Kevin is Swedish. So there's been a lot of that. There's been work for both of us, and in all of that, to kind of de-stress, I have been doing a lot of knitting, but unfortunately I hadn't really found a time to sit down and chat with all of you until now. So I do have a lot of finished objects to show you, and I am really, really excited to get started. So first off, I want to show you what I'm wearing. I showed this to you as a finished object on my last knitting podcast video, but now the pattern is released. So this is the Tinsel Town sweater, and I'll put some photos of it, as always, on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. I can't stand up and kind of show it off because I'm all mic'd up. But this is the Tinsel Town sweater that I designed in collaboration with Hobby as part of their Ginger and Holly campaign. So basically they sent me yarn and I wanted to knit this very classic kind of cricket golf cable sweater, but to give it a little bit of a festive twist. So I held the yarns, they have a Friends yarn line basically at Hobby, and I used their Friends Extra Fine Merino and their Kid Silk, and I held it together with a thread of their Glitter Deluxe, and I'll put some close-ups of it too so you can like see the glitter in case the light isn't catching so well. But yeah, I held that together for the main body, and then as this little like contrast color on the cuffs, I held together Friends Extra Fine Merino and Kid Silk, except these are in the shade 49, I believe. It's like a burgundy Bordeaux shade, and this is their 02, which is their off-white. So it's a very kind of neutral color palette because I've really been playing into my neutrals for the time being. And I'm going to show you some examples of sweaters, recent finished objects that aren't neutrals, and that's just because they were on my needles from the spring and I have just cast them off. But for now, I'm mostly living in neutrals. I feel like that's just kind of what I gravitate to, and I tend to have these like periods as a knitter where I will lean very much into one specific color profile, and for now that's neutrals. So I can definitely see myself living in this sweater a lot as the holiday season approaches. A couple quick things. It is knit from the bottom up. It's knit in the round. You separate for the sleeves, and then it's a V-neck in the front, and then you pick up and knit sleeves in the round, and it's got some sleeve decreasing in here. And you can get the pattern for free on Hobby's website. I will link to it in the description below. And it's also on my Ravelry designer page, so if you want to go check out that page, that helps a lot. It's got all of my designs on there as well, so you can also see all of the old stuff. So yeah, that is my most recent release. And it was a lovely experience working with Hobby, and I would definitely do it again. I think they were very responsive, and yeah, they're very, very easy kind of to collaborate with. So that was a nice first pattern commission experience that I had. Yeah. Moving on, I want to show you a couple finished objects that have very recently jumped off my needles. So this one is actually the most recent and the one that I am most excited about. This is, I'm calling it the Riviera cardigan because the yarn that I used for this was from a very special yarn shop in Nice. It's actually a chain. It's La Droguerie. It's a yarn and sewing shop, and they have branches in Paris, in Bordeaux, in Nice. I think there's one in Lyon. There's just a bunch around. But I picked this up in 2022 when Kevin and I went on vacation to Nice, and I just had to get yarn. So I got their alpaca plumage blend. So basically you get a strand of alpaca, and then you also get a matching length of kid silk to go with it. So I picked the colorway Ecru, which is very white, and then I also picked in the kid silk this very royal blue colorway, and I will have both of these colorways on my Ravelry project page that you can go check out. So because I initially, when I picked up the alpaca in white or ecru, and I picked up the kid silk in this lovely marine navy blue color, I had this vision of holding them both together and making like an entirely marled sweater. But because I have been gravitating a bit more towards neutrals, I decided to do something a little more classic and striped instead. And what I did with this was, it's a top-down construction. So you've got, oh, I hope you can see it. You've got short row shaping at the shoulders. You work the back part and then the front, and then you join it all together and knit in the round. It has a V-neck in the front. It's a double knit button band. I love, I'll put like better pictures up because I don't know how well you can see this, but I love like these crisp corners at the bottom. Like I just think that with something like stripes, having like these little geometric details, and like the stripes line up when you wear it, like the sleeve stripes and the body stripes, and just little details like that are what I'm really trying to incorporate into my knitting patterns now. And so this kind of is an example of that, where I've had a lot of fun doing fancy cables, and like really cool lace knits, and trying to like do a lot with texture, because that just was where I was as a designer last year. That's what I felt like knitting. And this kind of, I guess in this era, I wonder if you can call it an era, I feel a lot like really zoning in into construction of garments, and trying to like finagle with how to get the best fit, and kind of how to make these really small details that, you know, they're not very like they're not very noticeable kind of to I don't know, just at first glance. The shoulder shaping doesn't really look impressive, but I think like when you're wearing it, this looks like you put a lot of time and effort and thought into it. And so I'm starting to like more understated is the word, I guess. Understated design elements. So this is the Riviera cardigan, and it is named after the French Riviera because Nice is the French Riviera. And I chose these little gold pearl buttons. I had my eye on these anchor buttons at my local yarn shop, and I was like, oh, that would be so perfect. That would play so well into the whole like sailor core thing that I've got going on over here. Unfortunately, the buttons that they had were too big for this cardigan, and the other anchor buttons they only had one left, and the manufacturer discontinued them. So that was very sad. But I do like these cute little pearls. I think they're a nice little final touch to the cardigan, and I don't really know how I feel about putting out a test knit call before Christmas. Holiday season is a busy time on like a good year, but for me this year, because we're having almost a Christmas wedding, like we're getting married less than a week before Christmas, so it is a very, very busy time for me personally. So I don't know how I would feel about a test knit over that period. And I'm also not so sure how people would feel about test knitting over the holidays. I don't think it should be a time for test knitting. I think it should be a time for relaxing with friends and family and enjoying the holiday season. So I think I will hold off on making a test knitting call for the Riviera cardigan until the holidays are over, and I can really dedicate myself to making sure that I am available for tester feedback and just kind of on top of my game, because I know I won't be in December. I will be way too distracted by both the wedding and the holidays. So expect to see a call out for that in the new year, like pretty soon in the new year is the plan, and I will announce it on YouTube as well. And also, I know my newsletter has been a little bit dormant recently, but that is where I am planning to send out tester calls first. So on that link to my website, you can sign up for test knitter calls, and yeah, I will contact you through there if you would prefer to get an email instead. All right, moving on, because we've got a good number of finished objects. This one, like, you guys haven't even seen the yarn, because that's kind of how quickly things moved on this. This is the 4x4 rib sweater by Pickles Knits. I test knit this for them. Pickles Knits is, ooh, there's hair on it. Pickles Knits is a company that is based in Oslo, and they have their own yarns. So they carry all of their own yarns in store, and they design their own patterns, and then they give out test knitter discounts for those who test knit for them. So I was chosen to test knit this sweater, and it is a kind of, I mean, I don't really know what construction to call this. I guess it's like kind of saddle shoulder. Yeah, it's like a saddle shoulder top down 4x4 ribbed sweater that you knit in their thick merino. And that's a yarn acquisition that I showed you in the last video, except in a different color. So the yarn that I got from them before was in this, it was like a very toffee-like colorway, and this is their off-white. So I picked up about 4 hanks of their off-white, and that was enough for this sweater. So you knit, I really, really like the little details on the sleeves. I think this kind of goes into my thing about, like, I really, really like construction now. I'm trying to pay a lot of attention to, like, little construction elements in garments. Obviously not only just what I design, but also what I'm knitting. And I think this is a really thoughtfully constructed piece. So yeah, and then the cool thing about this that I really like is these little crocheted details along the collar and along the sleeve cuffs and the bottom. I think that's a really, really cool little detail that I haven't seen before, and it makes that transition from the body to the ribbing just so sophisticated and smooth, and I love it. And I also really, really enjoy a good split hem. Because I think that makes it a little bit less constricting, and it's nice to wear over kind of like my maxi dresses that I would feel a little cold in them now. I can just throw the sweater on over it, and it feels classy and elegant and just a little bit like a weather transitional piece, which I am aware that especially in northern Norway, we are no longer in transitional weather. We are very, very much in winter weather, but I do enjoy pretending like it's still fall outside, so this really helps. Yeah. All right, we are powering through my pile of finished objects. So this you saw as a whip in the last video. This is the Poppy Genseren from Dalegarn, and it is knit in Myk Påfugl, which is this kind of fat mohair yarn. It's like this chunky mohair that knits up on 7mm needles. And this is, I really like, see, this is what I'm saying, where I'm kind of in my neutral era, but also I have a couple, like, this is my piece to show you that is definitely not a neutral. And that's just because I had it, like, this was supposed to be my spring, like, Easter sweater, and then I just got a bit distracted, so I decided I would finish it up now. And yeah, I really like this. I started wearing it more recently because we've had, I guess, what you could call gray weather. It's been cloudy, it's been overcast, it's been either rain, snow, slushing, it's been pretty bleak. And so sometimes having bright colors like this is really, really nice. This is actually supposed to be knit flat, but I modified it so that it could be knit in the round. And yeah, it was just a much more fun and enjoyable knitting experience, honestly. I am not the biggest fan of knitting flat. So yeah, I knit this in the round, and I knit it with 2 different colors. I forget what they are off the top of my head, but they are on my Ravelry project page. I know I keep saying that. It's a kind of a sun yellow, and just a very, like, a Barbie pink, which is very timely, I guess. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to wear. It's very, very soft. I'm one of those people who I just love wearing mohair. I don't know if that makes me weird. I like that it's light and it's fluffy, and like, I usually put on like an undershirt underneath it or something, but I think it feels so nice. It's warm without being overwhelming, and I think that is why I love mohair. So I wanted to use the fat mohair in my stash and knit myself this sweater that I had on my needles and kind of languishing since the spring. So my last actually finished object, I showed you guys this yarn in my last video. This is the Noro Silk Garden Solo. And what I want to say is the shade 48. It is just this nice kind of green, marled a little bit. It's got some light green in there. It's got some blue. It's a lot easier to see when the lighting is better. The lighting, you guys. So for those of you who aren't so familiar with Arctic Circle weather, we have these huge transitions in sunlight as the year goes on. So in the summer, we have 24-hour sunlight where the sun never sets because we are on the top of the world. So we're always facing the sun because we're kind of tilted. But then in the winter, because we kind of tilt away from the sun, we have 24-hour darkness. And we are very, very quickly reaching 24-hour darkness, which is called mörketida, or the dark time. So there's not really good lighting to podcast in or to take photos anymore. So I'm over here just trying to create my cozy lighting and my artistic angles, and hopefully that works. But so it is really, really hard to get those detail shots and to show you guys like all the color variation in the things that I want to talk about, because there's just no good way to pick that up that also looks good and doesn't kind of like wash me out. Really, those of you who still have the sun, do not take it for granted, please. It is so wonderful. Last year, when I saw the sun for the first time in 2 months, because it's gone for 2 months, and then it comes back, and you can just kind of see it popping over the horizon. I was actually like literally shaking. It's that euphoria you feel when you get your first, and you take vitamin D pills, but it's not the same thing. It's like that first kick of vitamin D, and it just sends your whole body into overdrive. Like, sun deprivation is no joke. So yeah, appreciate the sun if you have it. I hope you do. But I digress. This is the Tazzo sweater by Petite Knit, which I probably should have mentioned first. But yeah, I shortened it a little bit. I just didn't want such a long sweater. I think her sweaters tend to be not as cropped as I would like them. I'm one of those, I don't know if it's just that I have a short torso, or most of my, I like to wear trousers now. Most of my trousers are high-waisted, but I just really like a nice cropped sweater. So that's what I did for this. And I also did this turtleneck that she recommends. I know some people like to modify it to be a mock neck, but I just really wanted to get the full effect. And so I think it's really, really nice. It's really comfortable. It's very, very easy to tell that Petite Knit, I mean, obviously you all know, but Petite Knit is an extremely experienced designer. And it's so easy to tell in the way that her patterns sit on the body, just the way that she shapes them, the way that they drape. I think, yeah, it's a good hallmark of kind of something to aspire to one day, I guess. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this. And it technically isn't a neutral, but also it's kind of holiday themed, isn't it? It's like a Christmassy green, which is a little bit more like, I don't know, I feel like Christmas red is a little, I don't want to say overdone, but it's very obviously Christmassy, but Christmas green is not. So here we have my Christmas green terrazzo sweater. All right, moving on to my works in progress, and I only have 2 of these to show you. I have a couple that have been sitting on the needles, like the Pauline Genser that I showed you. But that is, I mean, I haven't really done much more on it, so it's not really worth rehashing it maybe this time. Hopefully in the next podcast episode I have more progress on it to show you. But I wanted to show you because I was talking about how much I love mohair, and then I cast this on. This is the To Be So Lonely sweater by Kara Knits Eng. Kara's Knit Eng. I'm always... She's a wonderful designer. I have test knit for her before, and so as a thank you to her test knitters, she offered us 2 free patterns of our choice, and I chose the To Be So Lonely sweater design from her, which is inspired by the Harry Styles NPR Tiny Desk concert a while back. So I am knitting this in Drops Melody in the shade, it's Sea Green. So it's this, I hope you can see it in this lighting. It's this kind of very pale blue green. And it just has the most luxurious lace knit texture that is just so much fun to knit. I am just really, really enjoying this. So yeah, this has been working up really fast because it is on 6mm needles. So to be fair, I haven't touched it in a little bit, I think like a week now, but the body, I mean, Kara writes, on the flip side, I think Petite Knit writes her sweaters a bit too long for me, so I usually crop them. Kara usually writes her sweaters a bit too short for me, so I usually elongate them. So I am knitting this body a little longer than she recommends, so that it sits kind of just a little bit lower than where my belt goes when I wear my pants. So I'm almost done with that. And then I will start knitting front and back to separate for the arms. And then you knit the arms, and I forget if it's you knit the arms and attach them. I really hope it isn't. I hope it's you pick it up and you knit it from the top down, because I might just modify it if it's not written like that. But yeah, I am having a lot of fun with this, and I can't wait to wear it when it's done. I think it'll be great for especially like the spring in northern Norway, like because it is kind of, obviously you'd have to wear something under it because it's lace knit, but because it's so light, I think it would be really, really nice for spring. So if I can have it done by the spring, that's kind of my goal that I have in mind. All right, so now I've got my last not finished object, work in progress to show you, which is kind of near and dear to my heart. This is, okay, so for those of you who've been with me since the very, very, very beginning, both knitwear designing and podcasting, you will recognize this. This is the Soldag sweater, which was my first ever knitwear design. Like I was telling you just now about 24-hour darkness, right? The first day that you can see the sun, it's in January. I think it's the 15th technically in Tromsø, but it's like, I think it's also like the 21st is the day that you can see the sun for the first time from the city center. So we call that Soldagen, or the sun day. And I knit my first Soldag sweater in a like bright sunny yellow because I wanted a sweater to greet the sun. And so that's what kickstarted the whole Strikkechick designs and all. So yeah, that holds a very special space in my heart. And because I am in my bridal era, and I really I want more white garments to add to my bridal wardrobe, I guess is the way to put that, because we are going to be doing a couple pre-wedding celebrations to kind of get in the spirit and all, and I wanted a little bit of knitwear to wear as well because it is a winter wedding, and so we're going to be doing a lot of pre-wedding winter activities. I wanted a white version of the Soldag sweater, but the original pattern for Soldag is knit back and forth. It's knit flat from the bottom up, and it is seamed, and then the sleeves are picked up and knit in the round. So I designed it very much like a traditional fisherman's shirt construction, because that's what was easiest for me at the time as a new designer, and also to grade the sweater. Like, it was so much easier to grade squares than it was to grade from the top down in the round. So that's how I originally intended Soldag to be. But when I picked this up and I started working on it again, I realized that I wanted to change it. I wanted to knit Soldag from the top down, and I wanted to do short rows instead of decreasing at the top. And I also want to expand the size range for Soldag. So my first 3 knitwear designs, which are the Soldag sweater, the Liscanor sweater, and the Adams Morgan sweater, they are not as size inclusive as the rest of my patterns, and that's because I was still getting my bearings as a knitwear designer. I found people to test in a very limited size range, and then that's what I felt comfortable releasing. But now that I have a little bit of a bigger audience, I want to see if I can get test knitters for some extended sizes. And so the plan for this is I am going to write up a new pattern from the top down, so call it like top down Soldag or something. And then this is obviously in the round as well. So instead of knitting flat and seaming, it's in the round. But yeah, I'm going to write up a pattern for the top down. I will send that pattern on to those who have already purchased Soldag as soon as it's done testing. And then I will do, after the holidays of course, a call for test knitters. Kind of a shorter call because I really only want to see how the shoulder shaping works out, and then I would extend that call for extended sizes, because obviously then I would want feedback on the fit of the entire sweater, and so I would need to have a little bit more time to get that sorted. So I would put out a call for that and then send the updated pattern, a new version. I'm not going to like delete the old pattern in case you prefer knitting it the way that it's written. But yeah, I would send a new pattern on to those who have purchased it, and then also make it an addendum to the existing pattern for anyone who wants to purchase it in the future. So, and then obviously I want to like expand these efforts on to my other patterns as well. I want to go revisit Liscanor, maybe make a chunky version. I know there's like one of my testers made my old Kamari sweater, which is a lovely all-over cable sweater in the absolutely gorgeous Thought to Thread Ritual DK. She made it in a tweedy yarn, and oh my gosh, I am absolutely dying to make one of those for myself. I think it would just be the perfect like academia quintessential jumper. And I'm a PhD student, so I think that fits very well with the aesthetic, to have a little all-over cable tweed jumper. So yeah, that's my plan for Soldag, and I'm really working very hard on this because I want to have it ready for the wedding weekend or pre-wedding festivities. So I don't have that much time left because we only have a month, which, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't know if you have ever, if you've wedding planned, for either yourself or a friend or a family member or whatever, but oh Lord, is it stressful. And it especially, I mean, like when we have a wedding planner who is absolutely wonderful. But I'm not Norwegian, and I don't really speak Norwegian that well. The language test disagrees with me. They think I speak Norwegian, but I don't really, I don't feel comfortable very much using it. And so when I'm looking for things like decor and kind of what are my options, like it's so hard. So it's been a very overwhelming process, and it's kind of crazy to think that it's almost all sorted and it's almost the big day. Yeah, so that was I don't have any yarn to show you guys, unfortunately. If you were looking for acquisitions, I've been good. I have not acquired anything. But yeah, I mean, other than what I already showed you, where I acquired the yarn for the Pickles 4x4 rib, I bought that yarn. Oh, and this yarn, I forgot to say, for the Soldag sweater, I'm using Drops Air, held single in the shade Off-White. I know the original Soldag pattern calls for Drops Soft Tweed and then a strand of Kid Silk Mohair, but I met Gauge with Drops Air. And I've also been trying to practice sustainable fashion a little bit more. So I kind of go through my wardrobe and I'm trying to decide what knits do I still wear and which ones do I not wear so much anymore. And is there like a practical reason for it, or is there something that I could fix really quickly, or kind of what is the problem? And so I realized that one of my sweaters that was knit in this Drops Air I didn't really wear anymore. So I went ahead and I unraveled it and I caked the yarn back up and I am using it for Soldag. So it's kind of like recycling. And I think it feels very cathartic to kind of breathe new life into yarn. So yes, I don't have any yarn, but I do kind of have yarn, and that is it. Ironically enough, it's mostly white yarn is what I've been gravitating to. So, I mean, for whatever reason. But yeah, I really, really hope that you enjoyed knitting along with me, probably, and listening to some of my rambly, knitty thoughts, kind of all over the place. But I just really wanted to share what I've been working on with you guys. So yeah, if there's anything in particular you want to see from me, any questions you have, feel free to drop me a comment below. I love chatting with you guys. And if you want to come over and say hi elsewhere, I'm over on Instagram and Ravelry as the Strikkechick, and you can also find me on my own website, strikkechick.com. Until next time, you guys, happy knitting. Bye.